So I'm very happy to welcome you all to this seminar on motherhood and career development, which is really a topic very appropriate on this International Day of Women, because really too often, especially in the Western world, and that Western world unfortunately often influences us a bit too much. Motherhood tends to be presented as an obstacle to career development. And then we see that that very same Western world now is facing, they haven't always realized, they haven't completely realized it, but they are facing a demographic crisis with a big drop in birth, an aging population, and big burden, financial burden on the shrinking workforce. So no, we in Africa, we should not follow such an example. The African woman is strong enough and resourceful enough to be a good mother of a substantial family, and also to have a successful career. I have seen a good number of cases, so I know it can be done. Now, how? Well, let's see if we are going to get ideas. Now, we have a panel of very experienced women, and they are going to share ideas, share experiences with the rest of us. So let's be optimistic. You can be a successful person in your career, and you can be a mother of a beautiful family. So I welcome you all now, and we can start.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Okay, so today we're talking about motherhood and career development. And I know that the lady that introduced me talked about my professional background. I'm a mother of three, a young adult, I would say, and a teenager and a preteen. So I'm sort of in between all of the circles of motherhood. Next slide, please. And why is this conversation important? I mean, if we take example of even if we don't look at the global platform, or we don't look at the global sphere, and we look at just Nigeria, a society where traditionally gender roles is still sort of exerts significant influence. I mean, in the last couple of weeks, we've witnessed what I call crisis in leadership across board in the Lagos State Assembly, at the Senate, and this just shows you the challenges that we're grappling with in the workplace. And it just shows the challenges for us. I mean, today we're talking about how do you balance? And some people say work-life balance, and I always say, I'm not sure that you call it work-life balance. I call it work-life integration, integrating your career with your family life and motherhood. And so I'm going to just talk about a couple of maybe practical examples of how to navigate and win on both sides, because that's what we want to do. Next slide. My icebreaker, I wanted to ask, is there anyone who remembers the poses? I mean, we've already seen what they stand for over the years. Edola, we can put that up so that we just see it. And then as we just reflect on how year on year, we continue to sort of talk about this very crucial and important conversation on International Women's Day, the role that women play and how important it is to ensure that we have enough women in the workplace, in government, in politics, all across, because we know that when women thrive, nations will definitely thrive. And this just shows us the poses in the last, I'll say 5 years. This year makes it the 6th year. And just to think about how we keep driving these conversations and taking the required actions. I mean, I like the theme for this year, Accelerate Action, because it almost feels like we take 10 steps forward and we're taking 100 back. But we can't give up, we keep pushing. And most importantly, we must find that balance so that we can excel across board. Next slide. And this is just like a thought. An executive who is also a mother. I mean, the first thing that we have to all deal with is that guilt of saying, how do I combine this precious assignment of raising my children and also fulfilling purpose? Because for a lot of us, our career is our purpose, is what gives us meaning as an individual. It is what drives us, it's our passion. And so every working mother probably feels the same thing. You know, when you're just thinking, how am I going to do this? It's impossible, it's impossible. Tina says, we all say it's impossible. But then as women, even though we say it's impossible, and sometimes we feel that it's impossible, we keep going. And we sort of do the impossible. So it means that we can definitely find that balance between our careers and our great assignment of raising our children. Next slide. I just wanted to share some data on this page, and it's been tagged the motherhood penalty. And when you look at the global, and this is, I mean, the globe, when you look at the global labor force gap, and you look at, I mean, if we say that it's 50-50, the genders, the two genders, so we're saying that out of that 50% of the female gender, only 53% participate in the workplace. And then when you look at the men who are also fathers, 95% participate in the workplace. And like I said earlier, the more women you have, the more competent women you have in the workplace, the more organizations and economies will thrive and the more nations will thrive. So it is pivotal that we have a lot of women in the workplace who are contributing their quota without it having a detriment impact on raising their family and taking care of their children. Next slide. According to a report by the International Labour Organization and UN Women, the gender gap is been at the same spot, static, around 30% since 1990. 2022 says around 61% of women aged between 25 and 54 were actively involved in the labor force globally, compared to 90% of men. And I'll show you the stats on the previous slides of what it looks like in current times. But it becomes more alarming because as motherhood comes into the picture, so typically for me as an HR practitioner, you find that at the entry level, you almost have like an equal number, if not even higher, of females than males. And they come into the workplace, they're thriving, they're contributing their quota, and then they start raising their families. And then you just see that a lot of women start to drop off, especially women that have kids, you know, the toddlers, the young ones. You see that their participation begins to drop. Whereas for the men, it remains strong and active. And so this has been tagged the motherhood penalty. So it's like a penalty we pay as women for participating in motherhood. Next slide. And then the Nigerian context. A lot of the work that we do is not accounted for. It is pretty much unpaid, and it's a shame that we have to bear the majority of the housework, we bear the majority of the childcare, especially because of our cultural biases, and it's often unrecognized, it's often unpaid. And this invisible labor, it impacts our career growth despite its economical value, because you are raising the leaders of tomorrow. You're raising the people who will continue to fund the labor market in the future. But yet, a lot of this childcare work is unpaid. And I mean, there's a quote here that says that unpaid care work could contribute up to 40% of the GDP in some countries. By 2050, women will still spend 2 times more hours daily, and I think this is just being conservative, than men doing unpaid care work globally. When we get home after work, we still have to make sure the house is okay. We still have to make sure that everybody is fed. We still need to make sure that the children are well. We still need to make sure that, you know, everything that we have to do along our family line, we still need to make sure that all of those things are being taken care of. There's no compromise there. And we also have to make sure that at work, we're delivering at our best levels. Next slide. And I mean, today we're talking about this balance. Why is this balancing? Why is it important? Why is it critical? It is important because, I mean, I keep saying it, when women thrive, nations will thrive. There's data that shows that if there's just a 5.9 increase in female workforce participation, it could boost emerging markets. Nigeria is an emerging market economics by 8%. Because the truth is that even when you track performance of the women who are in the workplace, we find that women typically are usually more committed, more reliable, more dependable. They're able to take on especially long projects, and they're able to deliver. The data is there, the numbers are there across all organizations. We find that organizations that are diverse, that have a healthy balance of the genders, you can see it play out in their numbers and in the achievements they're able to record. And so it is critical that we have more women in the workplace that are able to participate in the workplace. And this level of growth, it says, is strong enough to recover the economic losses caused by COVID-19 pandemic. Can we imagine that? Developing countries with low income stand to gain 7.1 growth, while advanced economies could see a 5.4 boost. So definitely, there's even a financial reason, an economical impact reason why it is critical that we have this balance so that we can encourage a lot more mothers, a lot more women to participate in the workplace. Next slide. And we're saying that you can have it all. You can have both. You can have your family, you can have your career, you can have your children, and it's a number of factors come into play. The right mindset for us as women, ensuring that we have the right support systems. I believe in the phrase that it takes a village. You can't do it all alone. And effective strategies, and we're going to be looking at that and discussing that as we go along. Next slide. And so here I'm just showing some practical ways to ensure that we strive for that balance. I said it earlier, I believe more in that integration, ensuring that you're able to infuse both your work and your career and your family needs into that puzzle that makes up your life. Being able to have that integration and being able to sort of balance across board. And I'm going to just share some simple strategies to enable us to achieve this. The first thing is that we have to redefine success on our own terms. And what do I mean? We all have different seasons. There are times that you're going to give more to work, and there's also seasons in your life that you're going to give more to the home front. And so you cannot define success by other people's terms, but by what works for you as an individual. You have to personalize your goals, what you want to achieve, and what matters to you most. There might be a season that you need to pay a bit more attention to the children, and you're going to look for work that enables you to have that flexibility. I mean, thankfully, a lot of organizations now are recognizing the value that hybrid remote avails. And this has given us, especially with women, a lot of flexibility so that we can multitask and we can have a better balance when it comes to balancing our careers and balancing the home front. So focusing on what is important and letting go of societal pressure that says that you must do everything, you must do it all. That's super mom, superwoman myth that does not exist. Prioritize, and how do you manage your time? How do you prioritize what you need to do? And embracing technology. Technology is a gift. There's a lot that we can do with technology on our phones, on our laptops, in prioritizing our schedules, in ensuring that we have an eye on everything that our children are doing, at the same time also being active in the workplace. I'm a big advocate for outsourcing. If there are things that you need to do that you can outsource, you can afford to outsource, please outsource. Make sure that you get the required help. Build that support system. I'm going to get there. Things like planners, plan yourself, prioritize your time. Have days that you know that you're going to cook in bulk and you stock it up. And sometimes, especially when we're just coming up in our careers, we need to prioritize what is important. It might be better for you to invest money in ensuring that you have a deep freezer at home or an inverter to help you ensure that you can do your food in bulk and all, than buying that wig or buying that bag or buying that suit. You just have to prioritize what is important, because you want to make sure that you have all of the tools and you have all of the systems in place to enable you be able to balance and utilize your time as well as you should. You cannot overemphasize your support system. Who are the people around you? Who are the people that support you when you have meetings, when you have to travel? Who are the people that can step in and sort of help you with the children? There's a saying that the decision of who we marry is one of the greatest decisions that we can ever make, because it's important that your spouse understands your career aspirations, the things that you want to achieve, and so that when he needs to step in, he can also step in to give you that support. But utilize family, trusted help, neighbors, paid help. Just ensure that you have a proper, robust support system so that you can have that integration and that balance that you need. I say it takes a village. That is definitely what I believe in. And don't hesitate to ask for help. Sometimes you'll be surprised. There's a lot of communities now, female-based communities, women support groups that can help us, ecosystems, that we can get the kind of support that we want, the mentoring, the support that we can lean on. And it's important that we utilize this. When I talk about time management, there's something I started practicing a couple of years ago, and it's really worked with me, and I call it time blocks. I can decide that for 3 hours I want to do good work, and I just focus, and I'm dealing with deep work. And then I take a break for 2 hours, and those 2 hours are dedicated to my children. They're dedicated to my family, and I'm spending time with them. I can use an example. I remember the last half term, there was a particular day. I'd already told my son, I said, look, we'll go to the cinema in the evening. And during the day, I was just in the study, focusing and doing my work, because I was working remotely that day. And I think around 4, I then said, okay, the next 2-3 hours is for you. And we had an amazing bonding time. We caught up on a lot of things, what is happening in school, what are his concerns. And it's just making sure that, we utilize our time as well as we should. And like I said, leaning on our support groups and our ecosystems and the communities around us. And having open communication. Let's talk about what we want. Let's have the conversations with our spouses, our partners. Let us talk about how we expect them to support us. Sometimes we find that just telling them what we need makes a whole world of difference. And when you need that support, you find out that your partner is willing to give you that support. Or if it's your friends that you have, maybe you're a single mother who is raising your children, you have your friends, you have your family, just let them know exactly what is going on. It's going to be a busy season at work now. I'm working on a project, and I'm going to need to lean on you a little bit more so that everybody can adequately plan their schedule, and just make sure that, we ensure that the children do not suffer because we're paying a bit of attention to our careers or to the work that we do. I keep saying it. When we look at the data now, I think pre-COVID, a lot of what we look at, what are the propositions that people find attractive in the workplace? We talk about things like salaries, the work environment. But in recent years, we find that flexibility has become number one. We must advocate for flexibility. We must advocate for that balance. We find that remote work has a lot of advantages once it's properly managed. Hybrid work has a lot of advantage, and we must advocate for it, because what it does is that it then enables us and the young mothers coming behind us to be able to have that balance and that flexibility, and really to be able to achieve their desires or their aspirations, both in their careers and also at the home front. Leveraging workplace policies. A lot of organizations now have a lot of policies that enables us to have this balance and enables us to be able to do the things that we need to do, both at work and at home. Next slide, please. And continuous personal development. We must continue to build ourselves up, because the truth is that if we are competent and if we have value, there's no employer that wants to lose an high performer. There's no employer that wants to lose an employee that you know that once you give them a task to do, they're able to do it well. There is no employee that wants to lose people that have competence, people that have character, people that have credibility. And so we must work on ourselves. We must continue to work on ourselves. We must continue to learn. We must continue to unlearn, and we must continue to relearn. In the spaces that we work in the and this and what I mean by this is that keeping on top of what is happening in your industry. In the area that you're working, whether you're in finance, whether you're a legal practitioner, whether you're in sales, what are the trends? What are the things that you're supposed to look out for? What should be top of mind for you? What are the things you're supposed to research on? Now, AI is taking over. How is AI affecting the work that you do? In the space that you play, what is the role that AI is going to come and play? When you are on top of your game, when you're competent, you're always researching. You're always making sure that you have the right certifications. You will find that your organization and other organizations will make room for you. They will give you the flexibility that you need. They will give you the balance that you need to ensure that they keep you, because you are seen as a high performer, someone who brings value, someone who makes a difference to the bottom line, and someone that no organization definitely will want to lose. And that is your employability index. And also now, unlike many years ago, there's a lot of opportunities for mentorship. There are a lot of women-centered networks that we can join. I put a few on there. There's just so much that enables you to become a better version of yourself, that enables you to grow and also impact your family and also impact your society and the communities around you. And if you are a woman who is already at the top of your career, who already has this thing going, you know how to get the balance, help the younger ones coming up. Be a mentor, reach out, help the young ladies, and let them know that truly they can have that. Yes, it's a lot of work, it is tough, but it is definitely doable and it's achievable. And of course, taking care of number one. A lot of us get overwhelmed because, like I said earlier, there's a lot of unpaid care work that we do. There's a lot of responsibilities in the home front with the family. Some of us, apart from even taking care of our children, we're taking care of our aged parents. We could be the firstborn in the family, or even if you're not the firstborn, you're the one who shoulders a lot of responsibility. And so you have a lot of balancing to do. And because you have a lot of balancing, and some of us in our faith-based organizations, whether it's the churches, the mosque, we're also very active, and we're in groups, we're just doing so much. You must protect yourself. Me time, because if you don't refill, if you don't take time out to reflect, to sort of make sure that you revitalize yourself, make sure that you re-strategize, you're going to be overwhelmed. And before you know it, you will be burnt out. And this will have an impact, not just in the workplace, it would also have an impact on your immediate family. So self-care is essential. It's not optional. It is not voluntary. It is now really mandatory. Mental health care, taking care of your space, having boundaries, knowing when to say no. You can't say yes to everything. You can't take up every project at work. You can't take up all the family responsibilities. You cannot be everywhere. You can't do everything. You must be careful to know exactly what you need to do. What are the things that are for you? What are the things that aligns with your passion? What aligns with your purpose? You cannot play everywhere. You cannot be everywhere. So you must set boundaries. You must learn how to say no. And you must learn how to rest, to recharge, and invest in your own mental wellness and your own mental health. And you must have your tribe. You must have your circle. You must have people you can lean on, people you can, when you're not sure, you're confused, about to make a decision, you must have those people that you can call on and say, look, I don't know if I'm losing my mind. I don't know if I'm I don't know what's going on with me, but this is what I'm dealing with. And you will be amazed at the solutions that will come from your circle. Is very important. We hear it, the old saying, the boys, the men, they have what we call the boys' clubs. We must also have our own clubs. We must also have our own networks. We must also have our own circles. And thank God for technology. If you're someone who is introverted, someone who doesn't really like to go out, someone who probably has a lot that you're juggling, you can still network using technology. You can still network using, a lot of your devices. And so there's a lot of help out there. We just need to get it. We must learn to talk about what we need, and we must learn to ask for help. and learn to lean on others. There's nothing like a superwoman. Any woman that you see, any successful woman that you see, there is a tribe behind her. There's a tribe behind her. If you have your support system at home, your helps, take care of them. Make sure that you take care of your support system. You're the people that help you in the office, that support you. Your circle of friends, as they give, also be a giver to them. Just make sure that you're nurturing your relationships and nurturing your circles, because you're going to need them. Advocacy. Everyone can advocate. We need better workplaces. We need gender-friendly policies. We need gender-friendly practices. I mean, I've already referenced it, and I know that a lot of us have mixed feelings about what has been happening in the last couple of weeks. We need to speak up. We need to champion causes. We need to advocate for ourselves, because if we don't build the right workplaces, the right practices, the right organizations, the right government policies, our children are coming. Our children are coming behind us. What are we leaving for them? Whatever we do today, whatever we advocate for today, we might benefit a bit from it, but it will be a lot more beneficial to the other women, the younger women, our children that are going to come behind us. What is the point of training up your children nicely at home, giving them all the values? And the society is toxic. The workplace is toxic. Everywhere is in chaos. And so we also have a role to play. Advocate. If you're in any position that you can advocate, that you can provide support, please let us do that. Let us educate the people around us on what needs to be done. And let us ensure that we're speaking up for these things that are required. Yes, before parental leave, it's important, especially when women just have babies. You need that support. It is not just that, and a number of organizations are doing that. I think Lagos State for the men now, I think they even do up to 2 months. So there's a need for us to sort of really be talking about this, and this is why I like the session we're having this morning. Create awareness, educate ourselves, and let us know what is happening out there and what our rights are and what we can push for. Next slide, please. And so, like I said, simply put, tips to make life easier as working moms: get rid of the guilt. Yesterday we had our International Women's Day session. We have a women's network here at Sterling, and we had our keynote speaker. And I mean, she shared a lot of things with us, but there was one thing that she said that, in fact, it just sort of lit up the room. And she said to us, she said, motherhood, marriage and motherhood is not your purpose. It is not your purpose. It is by design. So you are built as a woman to have children, but that is not all that is about you. There is a bigger purpose in you. And if you're someone who has the God factor, God has a purpose for your life. So yes, you are designed to be a mother, to nurture, but there's also other things, other passions that you can pursue. You just have to apply the right strategies so that you can have the balance. And so that guilt, we have to get rid of it. We have to lean on our spouses and our support system. If it's not your spouse, it could be your sister, it could be your mother, it could be your mother-in-law, it could be friends, it could be paid help, it could be whatever it is. Just lean on it. Lean on your circle. Ask for help. Ask for help. A lot of people burn out. A lot of people are overwhelmed because they don't ask for help. The superwoman syndrome. I want to do it all by myself. No. And you are good enough. A lot of us are a lot more competent than we realize. A lot of us have a lot of value to add than we realize. A lot of times, we sell ourselves short. We think we have to be 99% ready for whatever it is, whatever aspirations we have. No, we just need to take that step of faith. We just need to prepare ourselves. We need to get ourselves ready, continue to build ourselves up, and give it a go. And you will be amazed. There's so many amazing things that are done by women that are able to find that right balance. And we would also find it. And I've already talked about practice self-care. It is critical. It is important. You have meetings, you have anything, there's something here that says, prepare the night before. Always be prepared. Take that extra time because you want to be sure that you're going to give your best in whatever you do. Next slide. And so, of course, before I leave, I like to just share a couple of nuggets, a few things that we are doing at Sterling Financial Holdings, and just to show some of the practices and policies, innovations that we have in place to ensure that our women thrive, to ensure that our women are able to achieve that balance, that work-life integration. For us, our mantra is that we want you to do your best work and live your best life. And that also includes mothers. Thank you. For our health and wellness, we have a couple of things that we're driving around our Sterling Virtual Maternity Hub. So a couple of years ago, we decided to introduce a hub. So under our healthcare, we have our health, our HMO that provides antenatal, but we found out that it wasn't enough. And we wanted to be sure that our women had the right support. And so we introduced what we call the Sterling. We didn't start it off as virtual, it was a maternity hub. So if we had expectant mothers, we worked with a midwife and we had classes for them. And there were so much learnings, especially for first-time mothers, for single mothers, women that didn't have the right support at home, they could get the support from that circle. And then when COVID hit, a lot of our employees started to say to us, this has been a blessing. We need to have it. And then we then converted it to a virtual hub where people could ask questions on a WhatsApp group. They were having regular meetings. In fact, I remember that one of the first classes we had when we had physical, we had a first-time mom at that class. She was, I think, 36 weeks, and our water broke and she didn't realize that it was our water that broke. And from that session, from that workshop, they rushed her straight to the hospital and she had her baby. And I just thought to myself, if she wasn't in that class that day and she was at home and she didn't know what to do, only God knows what could have happened to her and that baby. And so it is important that organizations we nudge them to provide the right support for us. And so we have and we also extend this free antenatal classes to the wives of our male employees. So we say if you have spouses that are not Sterling employees, but you want them to participate, please bring them on. Next slide, please. Well-being, I've already talked about well-being. There's a lot for us, we're big on well-being. There's a lot of things that happen to moms, especially when we just had babies, that are not really talked about. Postnatal depression, the guilt, all of that support. And so for us, it's very important. We have what we call our employee assistance program, where moms can come and talk about the issues that they have, and they will be referred to the right support. They will get the right support. We have our creche where our moms who don't have childcare can bring their babies to work. They have their babies, they keep their babies at the creche, and they're able to work. And for nursing mothers, we also have a nursing bay at the head office where they can go in, have a couple of hours with their babies, and then go back into the office. Next slide. These are just pictures of some of the things we do for our babies when they come. This talks about the creche. Next slide, please. And then, yes, community is very, very important. And so it was one of the major things that we started to talk about a couple of years ago. And I believe that in 2021, we got an award from IFC where they assessed 30 listed companies on the stock market. They worked with Nigerian Stock Exchange, and we came tops for having gender-friendly policies and practices were number one. And one of the things that stood us out was the network. So we created a network. I think the network is 6 years. Yes, this month actually. We created it the International Women's Month, and it's been amazing. One of our objectives was to make sure that we drive representation across board at every level. At the very highest level, we want to make sure that we're represented in all of the decision-making committees, circles. We want to make sure that our interest is represented. We created an environment for our ladies to have the right support, mentors, the right guidance, just to ask the right questions, ensuring that the workplace is safe, psychologically safe, so that people can benefit, from that. Our women can benefit from that coaching, mentoring in terms of how to find that balance. And I mean, our stats, I don't have that on here. Our stats, we did a 5-year report, and we ourselves were blown away by what we've been able to achieve. A lot of women who have been able to take on increased responsibilities, women being promoted. We now hire women at executive director levels. We even found that last year when we did our promotion, we didn't look at the data before we did the report, but after we had done the report and we looked at it, it was a 50-50 thing. And so for me, that was just a win, because it meant that we had created an enabling environment and our women were thriving. In terms of gender balance, we're already almost 50-50. We're at 46-53. So 46 women and 53 male, 46 female and 53 male percentages. And so we just continue to push to ensure that we create an enabling environment for our women so that they can aspire and they can actually achieve what they want to across board, not just only in the workplace, but also at the home front. Next slide. Next slide. At a point, I think we started the Sterling Women Development Program. I think we started this like 3 years, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago. When we did our data, we did our analysis, we found out that middle management, especially at middle management, a lot of our women were dropping off. And of course, at that time, a lot of them were starting their families, their children were growing, and they just couldn't balance it. And we felt that we needed to have a program, a leadership program that was targeted specifically to our women, to enable them grow, to enable them have the balance that they require, to enable them have the support. And I mean, you can see the results on the other side, 80% of this is 81 female. I think this number is from the very first class workshop. We've had 3 streams now. 60% of participants get promoted, have been able to take on additional responsibilities. They get assigned mentors, and not just internal mentors, external mentors, so that if there are things that are happening within the business that they can't express to an internal mentor, they can speak to an external mentor. We partnered with some female-based groups like Wimbees and Whisker, and just get them to mentor our women. A lot of fire chats, a lot of speed mentoring, coaching, and just hand-holding them. And we could see the impact in terms of growth and in terms of retention and even attraction, being able to onboard more women, into the organization. Next slide. And of course, we also do specialized recruitment because we're very focused on ensuring that we drive diversity, we drive inclusion. So this just speaks to some of our specific programs that targeted women. But there's a particular one that is very dear to my heart that I'm going to speak about. We call it Sterling Momship. So we did some analysis a couple of years ago and found out that a lot of women are out there. That's a talent pool. They're mothers who are raising their families, but they're not able to participate in the workplace. And so we decided to float a program that will enable them. After all, one of our work models is remote work and hybrid work. And so we opened up, I did a call out for mothers who are interested to return back to the workplace. I think the first week we had to shut down the platform. We got over 80,000 applications. When we did the interviews, we did them in 3 or 4 geographical areas. I know I participated in the Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt. And I was blown away by the talent of these women. Competent women, engineers, scientists, architects, brand specialists, HR specialists that had worked for a number of years, but because they had to raise their families, they had to step out of the workplace. And so we've onboarded them. At the moment, we have the second batch. We're going to be onboarding them soon. We're going through the process and just creating that opportunity for mothers who are out there, who are looking to return back to the workplace. And I can tell you, we see the impact in the numbers, the attitudes, the leadership, the ownership, the accountability. It's amazing. That is a talent pool. And anytime I have an opportunity, if I'm in an HR forum, it's one of the things that I preach about. To say it's an untapped talent pool. It's an untapped talent market We're looking for talent. People are jackpotting, people are leaving. There are these women who are amazing, who are talented. All they need is that support. All they need is flexibility. All they need is the right structures. And they will do their best work. So I'm proud. I mean, that is something that we've done and I'm really proud of. And we're going to continue to drive such innovative initiatives to ensure that we support women. Next slide. Okay, this just talks about the assessment that I referred to by FIC that showed what was measured and how steady. I mean, we came 52% there, we went number one, and just talked about female representation and especially our policies and practices. The number of days for maternity leave, the support when they come back to work, and all of that, and the balance in terms of the balance across board. 30 best places for mothers to work. I think we got this 2 years ago, for 2022. And so just to talk about the fact that as an organization, it is top of mind for us to ensure that we provide an enabling environment for our women. Next slide. This just talks about some of the things we talk about. We're very big on health and wellness, and not just the mental wellness, total well-being. And so all of the ailments that affect women the most, we campaign about them. We run webinars. We educate our women so that we ensure that they're taking care of themselves. They're doing early checks. They're carrying out their checks so that if there's anything, they can take care of themselves. When you look at the global stats, when it comes to ailments, there's a lot of things that affect women. And a lot of times, most times too late, because we take care of everybody else and we neglect ourselves. But we brought this to the forefront in the workplace, and we talk about that, challenge our women to make sure that they are looking out for number one. You can only give the best of yourself if you are taking care of number one, and you yourself, you're in a good place. Next slide. And so I think the challenge for us is to think, how do we drive lasting change? How do we ensure that all of these things are sustainable? And how do we continue to sort of advocate for the changes that we need in the workplace, in our societies, in our communities, in the nation at large, to ensure that our women are supported and they can achieve the balance that they need, the aspirations, both the home front and in the workplace. And balance is not perfection. Some days, like I said, it will be work intense, work heavy. Some days will just be family, and that's okay. And you just lean on your support system and ensure that you have the right balance at all times. Next slide. Thank you very much.
So we have some questions for you. So Lukayade has a question. She said, what are the practical steps you can take to make those around you who already have this cultural bias about women to support you, to help you to live a better and healthier life?
So for me, it's about creating the right awareness, educating ourselves and the people around us. The truth is that we're a product of our society. We're a product of our culture. Sometimes we need to unlearn some of those things that we believe this is the way that things are done. And so we must take the time to educate, and that is where advocacy comes in. We must take the time to educate the people around us. And we must also be very intentional about our circles. So if you think in a certain way, you must look for individuals that are like-minded like you. Nothing says that your circle must be made up of the people you see every day. Your circle, you can build your circle from anywhere. You just need to look. And thankfully, I mean, in recent times, there is so many gender-focused communities, ecosystems that can support us, that can enable us. So find like-minded individuals and sit with them, share with them. And you will find that you will then have the courage and the boldness to begin to educate all of those people around you. And when the people around you begin to see that you are winning, they see that, okay, can this work? Are we sure that this can work? But they see that it's working in your life. It's evident that this your strategies or this your ideologies they are working, you will find that they will come on board. So for me, is that educational awareness, that advocacy, and being intentional about our circles, finding like-minded individuals who can support us, who we can sort of grow together and build together. Mentoring is also another thing. It's so important. Find women who have walked the journey that you're trying to work and lean on them, learn from them. You don't have to experience everything. You can learn from those who have walked that path and they can share some of their tips. Because we would apply different strategies depending on what the situation is. So it's important that we have mentors, we have our circles, and we just learn from them. Thank you.
So we have another question from Abigail. She says, in our quest for flexibility in the workplace, won't that continue to make us inferior to the male community? How do we balance it? She says, it is believed that the male community can thrive well with little or no flexibility. How true is that?
Well, I disagree, and data has shown that it is not just women that enjoy flexibility. It is positioned as if it is only women, but even from my data, from where I sit, even if I just look at Sterling and I look at some of our flexible working options, and some of our areas where we have flexibility, it is utilized by both genders. The secret behind flexibility is that flexibility does not mean lack of accountability. And it does not mean that you should drop your responsibilities. So if flexibility is provided, but you're delivering and you're on top of your game, and you are delivering on the mandate that has been given to you, why would anybody think that you are taking undue advantage? I'll give you an example. You are working remotely. Working from home is not a holiday. Are you accessible? Are you reporting where you're supposed to report? Where there are virtual calls, are you ready? Are you video ready? Sometimes you're on virtual calls, and when you ask people to switch on their videos, people are struggling. Or you find that they are doing that at the same time. If there are certain hours that are dedicated to work, I talked about time blocks, those hours are for work. And so you must be seen to be responsible. You must be seen to be accountable. You must be seen to be delivering on your assignments and your deliverables. And if you are doing that, there's no reason why anyone would think that you are taking advantage of flexibility. And flexibility applies to all of us. Flexibility applies to all of us. If we think about it, in these times, in the current times, now, there's hardly any family setup that you go into that you will not find that either one party is in the US or in the UK or in Canada. Most times, we have our families are spread all over. And so, if you have a young man who is working, whose family is, for example, in Canada, he would, and he works in an organization that allows you to work remotely for some period, he will take advantage of that because he wants to go and spend time with his family. But he will just ensure that he delivers on the mandate that has been given to him. So I'm just using that as an example to say flexibility is not just being utilized by women, it is utilized across board by both genders. Although sometimes it can be seen as, oh, it is women that take advantage of it. And that is also because of the biases, because we believe that all of the unpaid care work that needs to be done is going to be done by women. So that means that when we offer the flexibility, they're going to spend that time doing that. No. Actually, we should ensure that we get support from our spouses so that they also help in the housework and in the childcare, so that we also will have enough time to do other things. So flexibility is for both parties. It cuts across. And it's a proposition that everybody can benefit from, especially when it's used right. Thank you.
We're tackling this very important topic, motherhood and career development. You know, it's a very delicate art of balancing. Timmy said, she doesn't think there's anything like, work-life balance. She just would rather go for work-life integration. And I do agree with her. She mentioned that the era of being a superwoman, super mom, it's just ask for help, really. So there was a part of the flyer, that made reference to water and fire. Water and fire are two powerful sources. Um, um, it's like juggling the two. They both demand your attention and often simultaneously. 1 minute you are navigating the critical business decision, the next minute you are, trying to manage a toddler's tantrum. It could also be managing a teenage mental health situation, or a young adult's general need for their moms. So it's really a tough balance. But like we've heard this morning, it's not only possible to make it work, but we can also excel on both sides. So we have an incredible panel of women who have been introduced to us already, and they haven't just navigated this challenge, but they have also emerged, stronger and more successful. My role here as a moderator is just to guide our conversation, ask questions that you're eager to hear answered. So please make use of the chat box and ensure you put in your questions as we go along. We'll ensure we extract the most valuable insights from our panelists' experience, and let's just sit back, relax, and have a very engaging next couple of minutes. So I would just allow each panelist to introduce themselves briefly, just about 1 minute. I just want to encourage them to share brief and compelling anecdotes or takeaways from their journeys. So let's start by addressing the elephant in the room. I will just start from the name. So I'll be calling us on the first name basis, just to create an atmosphere of friendliness already that we have. So in no particular order, Brenda, maybe because I read her comment and I found it really hilarious, and I also learned a lot from that. So over to you, Brenda. Can you please introduce yourself just for 1 minute? Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I hope
Morning.
I'm audible enough. My name is Brenda
Loud and
Unwawu.
clear.
Okay, great. My name is Brenda Unwawu, and I'm an architect by profession. I'm also a writer and a coach. And so I do a lot of things. But more importantly, I'm a mother of 4 children. So I have worked almost all of my adult life, and this juggling of career and motherhood is my story. So I'm very excited to be here today and just to share my own experiences and how I've been able to balance it, or rather integrate, as our keynote speaker said, and generally just make the best of it. I've been an architect for over 20 years, so I've been working that long. That's just needed to chip that in.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that intro, Brenda. Nsima.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, please. Loud and clear.
Okay, good morning. Nice to meet you, Brenda. My name is Nsima Ogedalakwe. First name is Nsima. A business executive, marketing professional, a mother of 5+1. I've been working for all of my life as a mother, started working before a mother, becoming before motherhood called. So excited to be here. It was really, really interesting listening to the keynote speaker. She touched on all the strategies. I think everything that we need to know. I believe our panel session will be more around sharing experiences. I have been through different phases. I've been through the fire, the water, and truly I've emerged stronger and a better person. That's what I can say in summary. So glad to be here.
Thank you so much, Nsima. Iyobosa, I believe I'm calling your name well. Please feel free to correct me. Thank you.
Yeah, you got the name. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Iyobusa Sorai. I have over 17 years finance experience. I recently left Coronation Merchant Bank, where I sat as the treasurer of the bank. And I'm currently in Opus Venet Family Office, where I oversee our investments in the educational space, hence the title of Director of Pershing Hills. I'm extremely glad to be here. I thought Temi's session was fantastic, and there will be a lot more to draw from it. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Yubosa. Let's have Adaeze.
Yeah, hello, ladies, and good morning. So you're meeting Adeze Ume. I work for Access Bank, PLC. I have about 23 years and counting in the industry. So I have a personal story of all that has been shared this morning. I also sit on the board of Access Insurance Brokers. And I'll be so happy to share our thoughts because I think the power of what we have is that strong network, collaborations, so that you don't think you're alone out there. People are going through it, and then you don't have to be perfect, but just be intentional. So I'm happy to be here, and with the insights Professor Chartel and Tim Dana has done, I really believe that we'll be so much enriched at the end of this program. Beautiful. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Adaeze. Let's have Oluwatosin.
Yeah, thank you everyone, and good afternoon to everyone again. My name is Oluwatosin Adibayisu. I'm a mother of three. By study, I studied chemical engineering, though I'm a professional in the insurance industry now. It's interesting to know that I actually started my career after two children. So I had gotten one too before I started the career. I have 19 years experience in the industry now. And I'm really, this is going to be a great session as we share experiences. And one of the things I really am grateful for is that I'm a product of great advice that I got when I started my career, and it really helped me a lot. I hope I'll have the opportunity to share that. Thank you all.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Oluwatosin. And last but not the least, of course, let's have Ronke. Do we have Ronke here?
We can't hear you, Ronke. She's speaking.
Oh, yes, I can see her, but we can't hear her.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, loud and clear. We can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay, okay. Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm Ronke Obifewolo, and I am a mother of four teenagers to be precise. Well,
Interesting.
I'm here to share my experience as a mother of four. Well, I can't say I've been in one particular field for ages like everybody else has. I've dabbled into several things, which I will be sharing with you how I've been able to manage this and that with running my family too. So thank you. Happy to be here to share experience.
Thank you so much. I love the fact that everyone kept to time, less than 1 minute for the intro. So you've made my job so easy this morning, and we're still able to keep to time. Thank you so much. So I would start with Brenda. I'll just be asking a couple of questions across board, and then we'll also tackle questions that come in on the chat, from the chat box. So Brenda, what advice would you give to younger women? I mean, we've heard so many things from Timmy this morning, and from what we already know, as from our experience, we can tell that it's not a stroll in the park. It's a very serious business. Managing career and motherhood. It's a very serious juggle. So, what advice would you give to younger women who are just starting their career and their family?
That's a very interesting question. What I would say is that as a young woman, if you're just starting your career, I would say give it 150%. Like just give it your all, knowing that your life will be in seasons. there will be some times when you will not be able to give that much of yourself. So you want to set a precedent. You want to set a standard so that when you do need time off, they would remember that, oh, normally Brenda is very good. So if she's asking for time, please give it to her. I mean, I say this because I work in a male-dominated field. I'm an architect. And so for many years in my office, I was the only one that had any need for time off, right? So I started working straight out of school. So I was a young girl and I had no encumbrances. So I was everywhere. I would do the work. I would stay the time with the guys because we did it in school, right? So in school, we were all in the studio. Nobody knew who was girl or a boy. We did the work, and I graduated top of my class. So coming to the workforce, there was no reason to feel any sort of way. I was doing everything I needed to do when I needed to do it. So I would show up, and show up loud. And so by the time I started to get married and have children, and when I did need time, I would just want to make sure that there was no other way before I asked for time. Because I realized that everybody else with me was a young man with zero encumbrance. And we're all looking for the same promotions. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't taking time off just for the fun of it. If I had to do things like immunization, I would look for hospitals that would take it on Saturday. If I had to take off time for something in children's school, I would make sure that their father couldn't go. Or, I mean, it was something else that, maybe I would make sure that it's once a term, not something like every week or every 2 weeks. I would just make sure that there was no other way before I took the time off work. And so I would show up and I would show up loud. So by the time I'm taking time off, it's a no-brainer for the manager to say, oh, please, by all means, go and deal with that. So if a young woman just starting out, don't be lazy. Don't look at the young guys in your office and say, these guys are taking it easy. Why am I stressing myself? Show yourself to be strong. Bring everything that you've got to the table because you never know when you would need this for you, when you would need time off. That's my personal advice. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Brenda. I remember while Timmy was talking, she mentioned the fact that as a woman, you also have to build your capacity. You have to be so good that your organization would find ways to create support because no one wants to lose a good employee.
Absolutely.
They want to ensure that they keep you, whatever it
I had
takes,
a
because
manager once who even paid for a driver for me. When I was so stressed one
wow.
period, he was like, "What's the problem?" I said, "I'm so stressed. Driving on third mainland is so stressful for me. I can't even afford a driver. I would just help my life." He said, "The driver, how much is it? Call HR. Say, please pay for her driver." And that was it. At my level at the time, I wasn't entitled to a driver, but because I was given, they just made the difference. So yes, giving your best would actually allow them to make arrangements to make sure that you're working well. I agree with that.
Excellent example. Thank you so much for that practical example. You cannot overemphasize the fact that you have to give your best at work because when you do give your best at work, you would always find, support when on days that you cannot, show up to be that best person that they've known you for because you also have other things that are calling for your time. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so the next question will be Brenda. So what are we doing? I'll just be going around everyone. So it's fine. You can mute your mic now. So I'll go to Nsima. Nsima, how can women prioritize their career development while nurturing their families? Brenda has given us an idea of how, she's given us an advice on how young women can balance, both the family and the career. So for you, Nsima, how can women prioritize their career development while nurturing their families?
Okay, thank you for the question. Thank you, Brenda, for sharing your example. I think for me, the starting point would be, Temi touched on the point that being a mother is not your purpose. I mean, I added in my notes, it's not your sole purpose because it's a huge responsibility that we carry as mothers or as parents towards our families. And is our purpose. In my view, is our purpose, but it's not our sole purpose. And there's a reason why I'm saying that, because at the end of your career, when you've done everything and you've retired, you want to look back at your family because that's really what's going to be left for you. No matter how many plaques you've collected around the workplace, you want to look back and say, I have left behind a legacy that when God asks me, what have I done? I'll be proud that I've raised the next generation of leaders, the next generation of mothers and fathers and everything. So first and foremost, I would say to the young person is, what do you want out of your career? Because it's clear what you need out of your family. I don't think it's beyond, you want to raise the next generation of leaders, you want the children you'll be proud of, you want the values, the virtues and everything, but what do you want out of your career? Because my career path is different from Brenda's. And we talked about you can have it all, but you must define what your all is. It's not everybody that will be the MD of an organization. It's not everybody that will be the CEO. It's not everybody that will be a founder, right? So when you define what your path is and what you want out of it, you now need to say, how do I achieve it? Temi touched on so many things. And one of the things I want to talk about is have that conversation with your partner. You're not in this alone, and we can speak about single parents differently, but if you're married and you're a husband and wife, first and foremost, both of you came together and brought these children to the world. Why do you think you're going to be the only person that would run your career and run your marriage? A supportive home, it's very, very important.
Thank you so much, Nsima, for that. That was, very eye-opening. We'll go straight to you. What advice would you give to working mothers on how to balance the demands of caring for a toddler and demands for the job? So I'm not going to limit it to toddlers. So because of course we have children across board. I didn't introduce myself, by the way. I have 3 children. I have a young adult, and I have well, I would call her, she'll be 18 soon, so soon to be a young adult, and then I have a teenager. So I can tell that a lot of us deal with different age groups. So I wouldn't just open it to toddlers. I would also just say across board. So Yebosa, what advice would you give to working mothers on how to balance the demands of caring for children? So I would say toddlers, preteens, teenagers, and even young adults with the demands that come from the job.
Okay, thank you so much for that question. I think I'll just draw on an experience of mine, right? Earlier on, I think some years ago, I had to go for my MSc in finance, right? And I had to travel out because it was in Madrid, right? And then I found out I was pregnant with my second child. Again, because I'd had a baby, I understood that pregnancy is not easy. It wasn't something I was ready to sort of combine with the degree I was going for. And so what I did at that point in time was to defer my admission. It was a very tough decision for me because I really wanted to get that out of the way. But I was very quick to understand that life is meant to be lived in seasons. I think that has been highlighted by one of our panelists, or I think it was Timmy. And just understanding that life was meant to be lived in seasons and that I was not in competition with any other person, right? I was the one defining what success meant to me and what it looked like. It was a decision I came to peace with because, I mean, if you're in the finance sector, especially in the treasury space, it's a very competitive space because today you hear, oh, my friend just became CFA charter. This one just did, everybody chattering and doing all the certifications. And you're like, a pregnancy that is meant to be a blessing. You're now asking yourself, what am I giving up because of this? But fast forward a year later, I had my baby, and I was able to go back to complete my degree, right? But even in going back, I still needed help. And so that's why the discussion around just drawing on a support network of trusted individuals that they say it takes a village to raise a child or raise a family or whatever. But I would say it takes a trusted village because village can be anything these days, right? Today people are ridiculous. Even cousins are ridiculous. Uncles are ridiculous. So it has to be a trusted village to raise that child. And what played out for me was my mom. And so I had my mom come stay with my son that I just had. I think he was 7 months when I decided to go back. And so I went back and I was able to concentrate on what I was doing, because it was my mom, taking care of my child. And that season went, and obviously that season is behind us. So I would say to moms, be kind to yourself, because I think we are our worst critic, right? It's not necessarily the voice from the outside, it's the voice from within that just keeps telling you, oh, you should have done this, you should have done this, you're not good enough, this one is already here, this one is already there. I think we have to come to a space where we just silence that voice and we tell ourselves we're enough. Like it has been highlighted, you cannot be 100% all of the time. So it is okay to be 70% at times. It's okay not even to have any percentage, right? You just want to wake up and sleep and, you can't just do it. Is okay. Let's learn to be kind to ourselves, because that's what I have learned over time. Because something that I see that a lot of us women deal with, that even I myself had to deal with very early on, is the urge to be perfect. You see, everything has to be perfect. Perfectionism, if there's any word like that. You want to dot the I's and cross the T's. It might not always work out that way. And so you have to be okay with it. What I would quickly like to add before I see the call, it's that the partner that you do life with is also very important. And so I would say, even before you become a mother, right? Because the decision actually starts from prior to motherhood. You got to examine the person you're working with very well. If this person has his head screwed on right? Because it will play a significant role in terms of the actualization of what you have defined success to mean for yourself. So your partner is very important in doing life journey and sort of just navigating, because there are days the husband will have to stay at home because you have to be in that meeting. Do you see what I mean? And if you don't have the husband that is supportive of what you're chasing, or what success means to you, it becomes a struggle. And then the home front is not at peace, your work life is not at peace, and everything is just in shambles. So in summary, I would say the right set of network, trusted village support system, being kind to yourself, understanding that you can't be everything at every time or at all times. Just let go of perfectionism and be okay with yourself. And lastly, the partner that you choose to do life with is extremely important. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yebosa. Very loaded. Thank you. Well articulated. And perfectionism, a lot of us deal with that. And, you've spoken life to us this morning. And I love the fact that you mentioned that, don't be caught in the web of competing with others. I could relate to that when you mentioned that, in the finance space, there's someone having something, there's one certification somewhere. It's a lot of pressure, on women. I remember when I had the first two in quick succession, and then I was just okay, and career was moving on, and then I somehow realized I was pregnant for the third. Um, you know how it is when you know that you're going to get a well-deserved promotion, but then you leave for maternity leave, you're back from maternity leave, everyone else has been promoted, you now have to prove yourself again that, look, I'm not workplace rusty, I've just been home taking care of my baby, but also trying to develop myself. But then you really have to put in the work and prove yourself. And then over time, they see, oh, okay, she's back to herself. Now she can be promoted. But the truth is, everyone else, has been promoted. Someone is having a certification somewhere. So I really could relate to what Yogosa said. Define your own success. Do not be in competition with anybody. Go it, in your own pace. And by the time you know it, everyone is there. So thank you so very much for that. That was really insightful. So the next question would go to Adaeze. Adaeze, how do you balance demands of motherhood with this need to advance your career? Like Yubosa said, people would, for example, in the finance space, you'd have someone having one certification or the other and all that. And these certifications really are necessary. Moving on to advance your career, either taking a master's degree or a very important professional certification is important. So how do you balance the demands of motherhood with the needs to advance your career? Over to you, Daisy.
Yeah, thank you very much. So for me, let's be honest. If we situate the context very well, that would help us. So we're competing for roles where it's not about your gender, it's about the best and the brightest selected. You're competing on terms like the guy you're competing with also has a full support system, has a full village supporting him, and a woman like you serving him. So if you get that very much, you will see that it's really about being intentional. So for me, I've been very ruthless with planning. Okay. So every year, I make it a duty to check the things that matter to me. I had Temi when she said, you define your own success, right? The education of the kids are priority to me. I put in place plans. The people that need, Chilotalo needs to do her common entrance. I fix that. Chemele needs to do his SAT lessons. I fix that. They need to do the medical care and dental checkup. We fix that so that I can manage the chaos and the things that come with those last minute planning and all. Um, I remember when I took one of those my professional exams, certification in a retail banking. I had just come back from maternity leave, and to Iyamusa's experience, everybody had gone. I sought for help, right, and asked one of our leaders that please, it was important to me. And then God bless him, he went like the fact that I could ask, because I don't take it for granted. That support system, I don't take it for granted. And then if you are in an organization that it's purely on merit, it's purely on excellence, you find out that make sure you're truly deserving of those anything you would ask for, so that when they need to make those calls, sometimes those corporate decisions, you will not be found wanting. And I had it. So almost to Brenda's point, where sometimes they lean back, right? And it happens when you have actually shown that you have what it takes. Because like I think Temida just said, every employer wants the, I mean, your talent is your best resource. So if your best resource is struggling, most times the people around you will, cut you some slack or try to stay in the gap for you. I've also seen the importance of never stop learning, grow on your own terms. Sometimes my work is so hectic that I have to define, okay, daily, I catch up with my business day news. Weekends is when I get on with my Harvard Business Review articles. On Sundays, that's when I do my this day style reviews. Then when I'm on public holidays, that's when I go to my business books. Most times, half of the books I've read, I've used technology, audibles. When I'm walking out is when I'm reading those books. And trust me, I've read so many books. So I see the power of technology in helping you. And like Temida said, there's nothing really like work-life balance. You integrate it. So you have to find a way to integrate your learning, okay? And one of also the best decisions I've had is to make sure I get a lot of, there's no thriving woman to be to a mother that does not have that help and support from her spouse. And please don't take it for granted. What about your steward? Because you need to know that those stewards are not house helps. So those stewards are people, are resources in your system. So you need to treat them well. You need to pay them well. They need to appreciate their role in getting the system functioning. Okay. It's also important to set your boundaries and prioritize self-care. I think I noted that because sometimes you can't pour out from an empty cup. And sometimes we women, we take it out on the people beside us, stress. You can manage it when you take it out on the colleagues or you take it out on, So we need to prioritize our self-care almost where you sharpen the saw, when you reconnect your spirit, all right, to be able to bounce back. And also, you must not take away the power of a backup plan. Truth be told, you don't own your time. Actually, you're in the top career space. You don't own your time. Things can come up. So make sure you have a backup plan of that whole village system. I think we are calling it different things. I call it a backup plan. 1 or 2 people. And guess what? I reward them very well. So that anytime I want to draw from that wealth of investment, they are there. All right. So just to put everything, in context, appreciate that we are mothers, we are leaders, we are professionals, we are white, we're everything. And sometimes, truly, the society does not recognize the weight of what we carry. But the power of intentionality, right from get-go, knowing what matters to you, knowing that scholarship for my children is what, and just permit me to add, in all sense of humility, my son got 100% scholarship in University of Southern Mississippi with this my very hectic schedule. It comes with prioritization. It's comes with being intentional. It comes with being deliberate. Those would be my advice. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Adaeze. I got so much out of that. Thank you so much. And I'm going to start from where you mentioned self-care. Self-care is key. You cannot not prioritize self-care. Otherwise, you break down. And as Adaeze said, when women are stressed, it's just innate. We would take it out on everyone, from the driver to the to the security personnel at the gate, to the office, to to your colleagues, and it just gets into a mess that and of course, as softies as we are, when we get into that mood, the craze mood because of stress, we also start feeling bad, and it could just make the whole day horrible. So self-care is key. Thank you so much, Adaeze. So we'll go straight to Oluwatosin. I'm just going to build on what Adaeze said. So how do you prioritize self-care and maintain physical and mental well-being as a working mom?
Yeah, thank you very much, Bolani, and thank you to everyone who has spoken before me. How do I prioritize self-care? The truth is, honestly, I'm able to shut down. Sincerely, I'm able to shut down. Currently, at my workplace now, I oversee both operations and commercial. That's a lot. The current staff of the organization report to me, 75% of the workforce reports to me directly, reports to me. When I get home, honestly, I'm able to shut down. So at times that maybe on my way, they are already sending me messages as regards operations, this that has happened, and then there are so much of complaints. I just tell them tomorrow morning we take it up. So I get home, I don't know, I shut down. I totally shut down. And then when I get home, I know I'm home and I continue it. I continue what I need to do at home. Tomorrow morning, I wake up, let's take it. And what's the next thing? I don't know if everybody can do that. I must tell you the truth. But maybe I've learned over the years, over time, to be able to do that. And sometimes I try to tell someone that sometimes you just not bother yourself about things too much, especially when there's nothing you can do about it right now. And you also need to be careful that it doesn't affect other things, because by the time you are carrying work home and then all you are thinking about the issues at work, there's no way it won't affect the home front. Now, in addition to that, what I personally also do is I have my siblings who live abroad, actually. Sometimes I just take 5 days. I just travel 5 days. I just go away 5 days and I come back. I just go there, sleep, wake up, eat, and I come back. Now, this is actually different from maybe the general family vacation that we do or all that. So those are some of the things that help me. And then when I'm back, I'm agile, I'm up and running, I'm back again to the work. So we continue where we start from. And I personally tell people a lot that I believe that there is nothing, which is what I tell people a lot, there's nothing that wants to fall from the sky that we don't have enough space on head to feel. And so because I tell myself that often, that see, whatever thing it is, we pick it up and we move ahead. Whatever thing it is, let it fall, we handle it, we move ahead. When it also comes to the home front, how can we handle it? What can we do? We pick it up, we move ahead. So I never, honestly, as much as possible, I do not allow things to bother me. And those are the things that really have been able to help me a great deal. I do not allow situations to bother me. I just, what can we do? Yeah, issues as of God. How do we find a solution to it? If it's something that, oh, it's going to cost a lot, let's just bear the brunt, and then we pull it, we could try our best, and we move ahead. And so for me, honestly, that's what I would say as how I've been able to pull through. And really, it has been a great one for me. Because I mentioned earlier, I started my career with 2 toddlers. My son was a year and a half. My daughter was 6 months old. That's like a year after I had, within the space, yeah, within the space of 1 year, 3 months, I had 2 children. So, and I was starting job when the second was just 6 months. So I started my career, honestly, with toddlers. But I tell myself I'm a product of great advice, and I really appreciate that. So each time I have an opportunity to advise a young mother or a mother generally, I do not take it for granted. And I remember my first week of starting my professional job. I got to the table of this woman. We're doing all this induction table by table, and I got to her table, and she asked me, "Oh, you have 2 children?" I said, "Yes, I have 2 children." And then she gave me a single advice. She says, as much as it is possible, never try to find an excuse to leave the office. And she said the day that they are looking for people to sack, the first list they will go to, those people are always giving excuses. See, it's thick in my head. It's talk. Even when I add every excuse, I always look for an alternative. Can I get someone to help me out? There are times I actually took excuse to leave, but each time I took excuse to leave, even everybody that I was reporting to knew that for me to have taken an excuse, I definitely needed to take that excuse. Because in fact, I remember a particular time I was actually not feeling well. And I ran to the printer to go and pick up a document, and somebody looked at me, "You are shaking." And he looked at me, "You are shaking." Like, why did you come to the office? That's to tell you how much I tried not to find an excuse to leave the office, even when I really needed to. And it has really helped me, both career-wise and even in the home front. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Oluwatosin. Drawing from what Ajaise said, any organization will value talent. Talent that you can trust, talent that you know that if this one says she's not okay, she's definitely not okay. And they find ways to, support you. I love what you said about shutting down. Very key. You have to know what works for you. And from what Oluwatosin said, she shuts down and then she finds time to rest and recharge. So she could just disappear for 5 days, travel to another country where any of her siblings are, and she just shuts down, takes that time to rest, she recharges, and then she's back to work, hale and hearty. So I think everyone should really know what works for them and ensure that they actually do these things that would make them rest and recharge and come back, being the strong woman that we are in the workplace. So, Ronke, we've heard from all these women. Um, from your perspective, what do you find most effective in managing the transition back to work after maternity leave? It is very tough after maternity leave. A lot of women deal with all sorts of things. You've been with this, little human for weeks, and then there comes a time where you now have to you know
Go back to work.
go back to work and delegate the care of that child, to someone else. Sometimes to our moms, to our sisters, to crushes. When you even know that they can do a fantastic job, but just to have them, you know, given to someone else. And then some people are depressed. There's just so many things going on. You can't even tell exactly what is happening to you as a woman. And then again, you have to still show up, for these meetings. You have to still, present. You have to still be at your best. So really, what have you found most effective in managing the transition back to work after maternity leave? Over to you, okay?
Okay. Hello, everyone. Once again, it's nice to be here. So in transitioning back to work after maternity leave, what I find most important is that you should have a working, trusted support system. I really applaud organizations that have crèche within the building of where the offices are, or they have somewhere close by where the baby, who is just about 6 weeks to 2 months old, can be dropped off and the mother can come on when she's on break to breastfeed, to do check on the child, a bit of bonding, 10, 5, even 15 minutes. For me, I think what worked best for me was the crèche. There was always one close by. I could drop the child at and then be able to check on the child. So the most important thing really is to have a trusted, reliable support system. In some cases, maybe the mother-in-law can come around and stay, which puts the mind of the mother at ease. When you're assured that your child is well taken care of, you'll be able to focus on work. You won't have to worry too much about what's going on with my child, what's going on at home, if the support system is, one that is very strong and you can trust. So as much as possible, mothers should lean on family members that can be trusted, please. We have to be sure that you can trust this person to look after your child. Not that they will start, because there are times, we've heard all kinds of stories where they give sleeping pills, a nanny gives a sleeping pill so that the child will leave them alone and they can do whatever they like. So one has to really vet who this person is. A family member, your mother, your mother-in-law, your sister, who can be there, having that system puts the mother's mind at rest to say, okay, I'm confident enough to leave my child with this person that I trust very much to take care of the child, and then I can focus on work. And that way, of course, things work well. But what if there is you can't find someone who can come and stay at home? Then you have to turn to the crèche. Still, you have to vet to be sure that this crèche is not one that cuts corners, and that they actually pay attention to the child, not leave the child crying for so long, or resort to mean ways of keeping the child quiet.
Okay, look this thing up before you stand there.
Sorry. Okay, so that we're able to, for the mother to be able to be at ease and focus on the work they have to do. There is no particular template, really. I think we just need to
I will soon
check
snap
what
you
works
this thing
best.
out. I'm trying to look for something there.
I'm sorry, Queen of Wheels, there's someone who is interrupting us. Please, can everyone mute? Can you just check your screens and mute? Thank you so much. Thank you. Over to you, Bironke.
Okay, so I would say that there's no particular template, or should I say a particular best way to do things. With motherhood, we tend to find what works best for us as a mother of this child, and to use as much as possible the resources that we have, the human resources that we have around us. Friends, we may have a friend who we're able to, maybe when we have toddlers, we're able to do exchange. You help me with this child this weekend while I do my run, and next week I take care of yours also. We need to lean on the people around us to make sure that we don't get overwhelmed, because when we get overwhelmed, then we have a lot of emotional pressure, a lot of psychological pressure that now makes the mother gets depressed, or in some cases even get hospitalized, because when there's so much stress and worry and all that. So we need to try as much as possible to build that support system. One of the speakers that mentioned that before, to lean on your friends, your family, people you can trust, and make the best of the situation that you have. This is what has worked best for me.
Thank you so much, Bironke. I was almost getting carried away with some of the comments in the chat box. Someone says, I know someone who used to check herself into the hospital for a week to just sleep and eat, and her doctor is fit. She's not sick, but she just
that
feels
goes back to re-strategize. I think it's very important. When we get overwhelmed with things, we need to pull back and re-strategize. I like what Tosin was saying about going away for 5 days. Even if it's just for an afternoon, if you have someone you can lean on to say, okay, just give me 2, 3 hours to sleep, to go to the mall and, window shop. We should be able to have that system that helps us to pull back, to relax, to take a calm look at things, to re-strategize. How do I make these things work out for my family? It could be, it's inevitable that change, we have to make ways to change things. If we're looking at something or a situation of things and it's not working out, we need to pull back, calmly look at the situation, re-strategize, think of what's most important. And I, as a mother of teenagers now, I have children between the ages of 15 and 22. I try as much as possible to be intentional. When I'm talking to a particular child, to put down my phone, to say, okay, I'm going to focus on this child for now, even if it's just 10 minutes. Because the way a baby will demand your attention is not the same way a teenager will demand your attention. It's always easy for us to, should I say, overlook their needs, and say, this one is grown up now, he can do things for himself. I don't need to. But let's look at them the way we look at the toddlers also. When they demand our attention, we put everything down, we focus on them and do what needs to be done. The same thing with the older ones. Let's put down our phones, talk to them one-on-one, have build relationships, with our children as they grow older too. What a baby will demand, talking about the younger ones, what they will demand may be more pressing for us. Say, okay, no, this child needs this now, let me do it, let me do it, let me do it. But if we have to look at them at each stage as they grow up as my baby still, to say, okay, 10 minutes of time I'm going to spend with this child. Yes, let me be intentional. Let me settle down and focus on this. And then we can, as much as possible, bond, enjoy that time together, create relationships, and so on and so forth. So, yes.
Thank you so much.
Back
I'll
to
take
you.
the key word from you, Ibronke, trusted hands, trusted help in dealing with um, issues that come up, mentally, physically, when you're returning to work, from maternity leave. So
Yeah.
trusted help. And one thing that's also worked for me, right? When the children were growing up, as much as I had a village of help, I also made sure I was dependable. So where you have school runs and you maybe there's a club on a Saturday, you be the person who will be taking other children to the club on Saturday. Ensure that you are also the one doing the school
Available.
runs, whatever it takes, so that whenever you call for help, to other mothers, they're willing to help you because they know that Bolanle would always, do this in her spare time, or she'll always make sure that this happens. Or you might also be the one that everyone brings their children to, maybe over the weekend or a public holiday, and you just, have them, have their children over. They can go and do their thing, so that the day you also want to do the same, you have people who would gladly do that for you. Someone also mentioned in the chat box that flexibility is key. You have to, as much as you want to be flexible, you can also still be accountable. So please, as women, as much as we're hearing all these things, there are things that would work for us. I think it was Tosin that said you have to identify what works for you. So there are so many things that all our moderators have, I beg your pardon, all our panelists have said, but there are things that we know our situation, we know those things that will work for us in our own situation. Please let's ensure we adopt all these things that we've heard from our various panelists. So we're just taking it really fast from here. I'll go back to Brenda. Brenda, how do you think the future of work will impact working mothers? And what opportunities or challenges do you see in the horizon?
Well,
Do you
I
want me?
would say that, yes, I
Okay.
can hear you.
All
I,
right.
I would say
Excellent.
that mothers that are starting to have their babies now are the most blessed. I mean, COVID came with it a lot of blessings, and one of which was this virtual working and hybrid working. And
Yes.
I personally benefited from it because my fourth child, my oldest child is 17, my fourth child is 8. And I had him 2017. And when I was finding how to re-enter back into the workspace because I had just, retired. I just resigned from my former job. I wanted to do something on my own, slow down, and then I found myself pregnant. So with the pregnancy came a lot of things. And I was just, in fact, I think I may have suffered a mild depression. But long story short, I couldn't get back into work. So when we were all talking about re-entering the workplace after maternity, I was like, I can relate. However, I was out of work in all this time and I started to do things on my own. And then COVID came. So with COVID came a new way of working. And I was able to find a job, right? That even though I'd been out of work for a while, I could ease into. Because now the work only required me to come to work 2 days a week. So for somebody that had been out of work for like maybe 3 years or 4, I can't remember exactly now, it was easier for me to ease into it. So I reckon that a woman who's just having a baby and getting back to work that is hybrid can ease into her work. Unlike the days I remember clearly when I was in active work, every time I had a maternity, when I wanted to go back to work, the first problem I had was my breasts, because you're used to giving the baby breast milk every minute. So I would have to take my breast pump to work.
And it engorges.
Oh
It's
my God.
it's just a whole different level.
It was horrible. I would have to take breast milk. I'd have to find a corner. I'd have to pump it. I'd have to find a fridge. It was just horrible, 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 horrible. So I mean, a woman that is giving birth at this time where there is, all kinds of flexible. Some people don't even go in at all. Some people have fully remote jobs so that paying them very well. I mean, what a blessing. I think it is such a blessing for mothers who are able to find this kind of work. And so that's what I think the future of work is. It is very, very good for mothers. It is very excellent for even those who don't have toddlers, even if you have older children, because like we've all shared, children need different things at different times, right? I have a child who's now writing SSC. We're battling SSC one side, JAMB one side, SAT one side. The girl confesses just sit down one day and say, "Mommy, I don't feel like going to school." And we start to talk. We start to, counsel. We start to, it's a lot. And I'm like, when do we get out of this? You see, there's just different things for different stages. So as a mother, I mean, I'm so blessed to be working where I work now. We have 2 days remote work and 3 days to be in the office. So what that helps me to do is that on the days that I'm remotely working, I do school. So I'm able to take the children to school myself. I drop them and I go back and sit on my desk. At 2:30-ish, 3, I get up and go and pick them, use 1 hour to do school and go back to my desk. And I return the 1 hour after the 5 when I should have closed. I mean, I tend to just make up for these things in some way. But what it helps me do is that I'm able to be in touch with my children. I'm able to be there for them. I'm able to see them. There's something so powerful about that picking children up, seeing them first when they come out of school. You're able to hear everything that happened in class. You're able to see the child that comes back looking somehow. You're able to ask immediately, what's going on? What happened in school today? Unlike when you come home at 8, 9, and maybe they are asleep. And by the next day, the person she's gone over what it was that was going on with her. But there's something precious about picking your children up from school. So anybody who has that blessing really, really, really should be very thankful. So for me, I think that work that allows us to have this hybrid system is really, really powerful for everybody, women and men inclusive, because everybody these days is involved in parenting. I see a lot of men coming to do school run, even when I go to school, so it's just beautiful for the family life, honestly. And I think that it's recommended. And
Absolutely.
people just keep it. You should stay. Nobody should tell us to go back to work. We're not going back fully.
So you said it all. There's no better time for those having children now. It's much better than the days where you had a traditional work environment where there wasn't anything like flexibility. But it's much better because we can have a breather. You can, integrate family and work life at the same time. I just want to create a balance. So for those mothers, maybe like me, at the time when who cannot pick up the children in school and cannot see them, firsthand and have conversations with them. One thing that has helped me over the years is that I would always. So I had this idea from our NPR where you talk about things that happened, things that you want to do, and things that you have done better and stuff like that. So I'll just have the children together, just discuss generally about them, tell me what happened during the week or during the day. If I don't have time during the day, it could be during the week, it could be a Saturday. Just ask them what happened over the week. What would you have done better? What happened that you didn't like? What do you want to do next week? How can I support you? We hear all these things in the workplace, but it's always nice when you also bring it back home and replicate it. It really did help me, as a mom, and I was able to deal with my children as as their needs will differ. You have children who would be expressive, they'll tell you exactly how they feel. And you have those children who would you really need to work on them.
Have
You
to
really
draw
need to
it out of them.
with work, you don't really have time for that. Sometimes they're talking, they're still thinking, you're still prodding, still trying to pamper them. But you really have to get to a meeting, but you just need to know how to manage it and know how to get the best.
It's totally frozen.
Yeah, Bolanle, like you're freezing. We can't hear you again.
Okay, I guess our next topic is
Um,
Okay, I think I was thrown out. I'm not sure what I said last, but that's fine. It doesn't matter now because we're trying to get as fast as we can through the final few questions, and then I'll just we'll leave the floor open for one or two other questions, and then we call it a day. Thank you so much, everyone. So far, it's been very engaging. Thank you for your time and ensuring that it's been an engaging session. So I'll just go straight to Insima. Sima, what role can um, hmm, no, I won't ask that question. So, how would you handle societal expectations and stereotypes? So, I know that at the beginning of the session, there was a lot of conversation around societal expectations. It's really tough on women, really, and stereotypes around motherhood and career development. How do you handle that? Just in a few seconds,
Yes,
Insima.
I think, yeah, thank you so much. First and foremost is to acknowledge these things exist. We can't wish them away. It's what it is as at now. But what do we do to change the narrative? So we talked about advocacy. So the more women or even men, because if you look at the stats that Temi shared, if we have so few women in high places and we're only depending on women to change the narrative, then we'll not go far. We need men on this journey with us. So let's confront the stereotypes. Let's debunk them. Let's have conversations around them. So for example, and I also like to challenge we mothers. We have young adults, we have teenagers, are we reinforcing these stereotypes with our children? Are we breaking them? Do we still have mothers that maybe say to their boys, the kitchen is not for you? Because such things that maybe our grandparents were saying that became part of what was accepted in the society. If we don't break down those stereotypes and define them and speak about them in the workplaces and tell them these are not truth. We know how much effort or time and everything that women put into the workplace. We're talking about coming back from maternity and trying to prove yourself. Meanwhile, the man that his wife went on maternity in the same place is just rolling. So sometimes we find that women, even in the higher places, are not helping our storytelling. So we need to recruit the men. Let's break these things down. Let's speak about them. Let's confront them. And then in our own little spaces, when you have the opportunity to tell your own story, tell it positively. Tell it in a way that inspires other people. You can't run away from the fact that when you become pregnant, you're going to be away for 9 months. You can't do anything about it. Not away, but you're going to carry that journey, 6 months maternity, ease back into the workplace. But is pregnancy an illness? No, it is not. Some people have tougher pregnancies than others. It is just what it is. But let's not promote this narratives. Admit they're here, but work hard, support structures. Women advocacy groups. So we talked about the women groups within what Sterling Bank is doing is amazing. How many other banks can learn from there? How many other organizations can learn from there? Let's create that enabling environment and enabling policies that break down the stereotypes. I think accelerate action is what we are talking about. A lot of talking, but let's start to do that. Measure impact is another thing. When you measure the impact of the work that you're doing and you share the statistics, then you're getting more people involved, more people to become believers that these things actually work.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Ntima. Beautiful. Beautifully said. And I'm just going to move on to you, Yogosa. There was something Ntima said. She talked about support groups. So I'll just take the next question from there. What kinds of community or support groups, Yogosa, would you think um, would be most beneficial for mothers of toddlers, preteens, teenagers across board in the workplace?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that question. In answering that, I would say again, there are a lot of them out there. And I think Timmy alluded to some. You have Wimbies, you have Whisker, you have smaller pockets of women coming together and just doing things. While these organizations might have stratas to them in terms of there's a process to joining and all of that, you might as well find a couple of your friends, good friends, that are on the same journey with you. What I mean by that is you guys are you're experiencing the same thing. And then you can actually form a support group and be there for each other to encourage each other as you go on. I would also say that beyond organizations, beyond women's support groups, right? We can also draw from men's support groups, right? What do I mean by that? Or we can also get support from men. I always like to use my experience. I remember when I became the treasurer in Coronation, and I was told to just sort of rework the treasury team. Again, because I think that career-wise, right, a bit of emotional intelligence and a bit of diplomacy is very, very, very much required. Now, in recruiting who was going to assist me, right? I could have gone for a woman because I wanted to promote whatever. But because I understood the journey I was on, I had already projected that 9 months into this thing, I'm going to get pregnant at some point because I want to have children, right? At some point, I have to go on that journey, and I have to be away from this organization for that period of time. And so how did I handle that situation? It was just common sense. It just made sense that my assistant in that situation had to be a man, because I wasn't going to bring on, and this is me just sharing my experience. I wasn't going to bring someone in the same boat that I was, and then at the end of the day, we all create problems for the organization. Because whether we like it or not, the corporate world does not recognize a vacuum. Do you see? Once they start feeling there's a vacuum somewhere, it will be filled in an instant, because the truth is that nobody is indispensable. No matter how superhuman or how much talent you have, you're not really indispensable. And so when you create that gap, right, it becomes obvious to the entire organization and you're readily replaced. Why am I emphasizing on this? We have to go out of emotions. We have to not base our decisions on sentiments and look at things holistically and begin to take decisions that work for us. And so what I did in my position, I got a very smart, very, very extremely smart guy to be my assistant. Now the bank was happy that, oh, she brought this person, blah, blah, blah. But in my mind, I had solved my future problems, which is if I go on maternity, life is going to go on as normal. Targets are going to be met. This person is smart.
It was
Do you see
really
what I mean?
smart, you was like,
He's never going to say he's having cramps. He's never going
absolutely.
to say he's going on maternity. I have it all locked down, right? And it worked for me, right? And we rode that boat for 8 years, 9 years before I left. That's how I solved my problem in that situation. So I would say assess your situation. It might not necessarily be a Wimbies, it might not necessarily be a Whisker. All of those things are good. It might be within the bank. Who can you, I mean, when I say bank now, that's because banking what we all really know. It might be within your workspace, assuming you're in a managerial role, right? Or in management, right? Who can you pull close? Who can you bring into your boat so that when you are out taking all of these excuses and having to attend to life, this person is holding the fort for you. And then the company does not suffer as a result of your absence. Do you see? Once you're able to do that, your journey within that organization or your career journey becomes seamless because you have gone ahead of time and made provision for the organization to thrive even in your absence. So that will be my take on that. Thank you.
I want to just say a very big thank you to our keynote speaker and, of course, our incredible panelists for sharing your insights and experiences. Thank you so much. Remember, we've heard a lot today, but remember, it's not about achieving a perfect balance, but about creating a life that works for you. One thing that has been said here is that you have to know yourself, know your situation, and things that will work for you. So please be kind to yourselves. Prioritize what matters. Don't be afraid to ask for help. There's no superwoman, no super mom anywhere. I think it was Iyoposa that mentioned that in the workplace, she gave me 2 golden nuggets: EQ, emotional intelligence, and of course, diplomacy. Those are key. I just want to say a very big thank you to everyone that has joined us this morning. And of course, it's now led to afternoon. We hope you've gained valuable takeaways from our discussions. Remember to prioritize what matters. Again, I'm saying that again. And dedicate time to self-care. It's very important. You can be giving your best to everyone and you just burn out. Ensure that in giving your best, you also invest in self-care. Know what works for you. Watch a movie, relax. As Oluwatosin said, I think she just said, shut down. Just know what works for you. Thank you.
So just to round up, I just want to tell us about that we'll continue this conversation next weekend. We have an international family conference